Welcome to the Georgia Peace Symposium. Listen, we're so excited that you stopped by to take a look at our viewing audience. We've got an amazing show for you today. Listen, I've got my wonderful friend, George Franco. George Franco from Fox 5.
Good to see you.
So good to have him co-hosting with me today. Listen, George and I have some amazing top attorneys, okay? We're not just talking about just regular run-of-the-mill attorneys. We're talking about top-tier Georgia attorneys. A personal friend of mine, Manny Aurora, attorney Manny Aurora. I think Manny has a doctoral degree in judicial law. And so we also have one of his colleagues here, whom I would allow him to introduce. But the amazing thing about Manny is Manny graduated from the University of Georgia Tech.
Yes.
And so let's talk about that journey at Georgia Tech. I mean, because everybody can't get into Georgia Tech. Let's talk about that.
Well, I just had to get something my dad said before I decided to become a lawyer to have a fallback position. So he said, go to Georgia Tech, get an engineering degree. I was fortunate enough to get in, got my degree in nuclear engineering, and then decided to go to law school.
Did you? Wait. Go ahead.
He said, I got my degree in nuclear engineering,
talk about that.
and I then became an attorney. So
right.
what does that tell us about the intellectual capacity? And by the way, I know Manny from many stories we've done at Fox 5 News, brought in often as representing the client. I don't remember the client, but I remember the attorney. And the thing about Manny Aurora is the man is a brilliant attorney, and I know I spoke to you as an expert at various different levels. When we had legal questions, we'd go, who do we call? Well, there's only one guy. Got to go to Manny.
The nuclear engineer.
That tells me a lot. I never knew that part.
I've been doing that since 2000, I think, when I met George for the first time.
Back,
so it's good to see you again.
It's good to see you. Good to see you.
So once again, nuclear engineering, then from nuclear engineer, how do you morph that into a lawyer?
Well, I was good on the debate team as far as that goes in high school, so I figured that's what I was going to do. I also did ROTC while in high school and college, so I thought I was going to be a fighter pilot first. But back then, there was no LASIK. So my senior year at Georgia Tech, after studying too much, my eyes weren't 20/20 anymore, so I had to get glasses just a few months before graduation. But then you couldn't go to flight school. So they gave me 3 years off to go to law school wherever I wanted, and the rest is sort of history.
Right, so it's a little bit difficult when you got a minus 375 in the left eye and a minus 250, minus 50 at an axis of 190 in the right eye. But nonetheless, now we have contact lenses, so we're glad to know that he was able to get around all of that. But let's talk a little bit about your matriculation, and even as the Chief Justices have left this building, they did not leave without giving you the nod, without giving you the bow. Let's talk a little bit about this gentleman that you have sitting with you as we kind of bleed into the superior, well, we want to say supreme justices, and the reason with your connection with him and them.
Well, Devin's worked for me for a while. His name is Devin Rafis. He's sort of our right hand.
Nice to meet you, John.
He's our right-hand man, but I'll let you hear his story directly from him. But one of the most interesting things is he's very incredibly trustworthy and bright. Used to be a clerk at the Georgia Supreme Court before we hired him. And the very first thing he did was something quite spectacular that most lawyers in Georgia can't claim to have ever done. So I'll let him discuss that.
Let's talk about that, Devin.
Yeah, sure. In law school, I clerked for Justice Namias, so it was a pleasure seeing Chief Justice Melton again, because I see him in the hallways, and we just say, hey, Chief, give a wave. Really nice guy. And so I was awaiting bar results after I graduated. After I got them, or while I was waiting bar results, we had a couple of pending appellate cases that were going to go before the Georgia Supreme Court. And so we've been working on them very hard. And after I got the bar results, you have to get sworn in by the Georgia Supreme Court in order to make it official in practice. And so because I used to clerk for Justice Namias, I reached out to him, got a special swearing-in ceremony with him. And after he swore me in, he was like, well, we look forward to seeing you here in the courtroom and arguing in the future. I said, okay, well, thank you, and look forward to seeing you in 2 days. And he was like, wait, what? So yeah, we have a case in 2 days. I'll see you and I'll argue it in 2 days. And 2 days later, we went and argued it, and it was a pleasure doing it. It was a blessing, so.
You know what? Go ahead, George.
It's got to be more than that. Right. Manny, I take it at this point he is already in your court. And so there's enough trust in his young ability to place him at a position at the Georgia Supreme Court 2 days into the profession.
Right, he'd worked for us as a clerk for about a year and a half at that point after he left Justice Namias. And I'm not easy to work with, and it's hard for me to give respect to most anybody. You know, I judge people by saying, would I hire them to represent me? And there's a very elite crowd, which is less than the fingers on one hand. And so when Devin put the work in and we practiced it and went through it, you know, he was ready, and he did a good job. It was an interesting issue. It didn't work out in our favor, but it rarely ever does on appeal because the win rate is so minuscule. But I was proud of him.
But nonetheless, it takes your status, if I could use that word, which I think is fair, to a different level, because many attorneys, no matter how many years they're in the practice, will never even get to the Supreme Court.
Right. It's difficult to get to the Supreme Court. As defense attorneys, most of the time you can get up there with murder cases because it's a direct appeal to the Georgia Supreme Court. But, I mean, you talk to most attorneys, maybe 90% of them never make it to the Georgia Supreme Court. So, as I said, I was very blessed and very fortunate to have practiced there right off the bat. So I look forward to being there in the future.
Well, I say this. I remember working with one of our state court judges here, Judge Rhonda Colvin Leary, and there was a gentleman that was running against her, and he used to always drop this terminology, appellate. And he was like, I'm gonna beat her, you know, because I do all of this stuff appellately and whatever. And I was like, no, you're not gonna beat her. And he didn't. But appeal, what does that mean? He just kept dropping those terms on me. I just knew I had to beat the man, and we did.
Well, appeal is bad news for most of our clients, which means you lost the trial. So you don't want to be on an appeal if you can help it. I mean, the success rate on appeal is so low. The judges generally bend over backwards at the appellate level to affirm what the jury has done. It's a very rare animal. And so if you're saying I'm an appeal expert or whatever, that means you're picking up a lot of loser cases, and you don't want to be on appeal. You want to win it at the trial level and put your eggs and efforts right off the bat at that level.
I want to talk about your service to the United States of America. Sure. I want to talk about my daddy served in the 82nd Airborne Division of the Airborne out of Fort Bragg. And so not only did he serve on the 82nd Airborne, my nephew is also serving on a high level in the military on the United States Airborne of the United States of the Army, United States Army in Fort Bragg. Tell us about that oath, that duty, and that service. Can we talk about that, Manny?
Well, it's just something my father insisted I do. So I've been in ROTC since 10th grade in high school. And so from that, I got one of the few scholarships that they give out to go to college, so that paid for Georgia Tech. And then once my eyes weren't 20/20 anymore, the only thing I could fly was a desk. So after law school, you know, I did the active duty route. Then I joined the reserves after I finished up active duty. And 20 years later, I retired as a lieutenant colonel. I really thought I could go farther, but with private practice and the travel the military requires and the obligations, it just didn't work. So I needed to retire from the military at that point instead of going farther. It's a regret I have, but it was the best thing for the family at the time.
And you said that you've traveled both sides of this legal equation, that you've been a prosecutor under former District Attorney Paul Howard,
yes,
and now you do defense. What was it that said, I want to go from here to here and become who you are today?
Well, I mean, a prosecutor, you can only do so much, right? It's, for lack of a better phrase, if you have ambition, it's kind of a dead-end job unless you're going to run for office one day, and that really wasn't my personality. I don't think I'd be a very good administrator, even though I have, you know, 3 or 4 lawyers that work for me. I'm sure they would tell you he's overbearing and just a little hard to deal with.
Not many.
But the defense side is just a new challenge, and I got an offer from a wonderful lawyer named Ed Garland that I just couldn't pass up. He's sort of the dean of the bar, you know, 3rd, 4th generation defense lawyer. His father was a legend before him. And I couldn't pass it up, and, you know, frankly, it pays a heck of a lot better. So when you got 2 kids in private college, it works out pretty good.
Listen, guys, I just want to thank each and every one of you all for being here. We've got like a minute before we go into close, and so I'm going to kind of just, you know, I know we're moving. We just had we're moving into the golf tournament area where we now COVID is being lifted, right? And so now we're going to tee them up, and we're going to the green, and we're going to come back after this. But one of the things I want to tee you up and talk to you about a little bit, and even you, yourself as a mentee for the mentor with Manny, is why do people call on you? Like, how can you demand such a respect and get such results? What makes you so uniquely different And do you know? I mean, did you just? I mean, you don't know what makes the magic work. But one thing I do know is we've got to go to break. So I'm going to allow you. It's like eating fish. You eat the meat, spit out the bones. So chew on that for a little while. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Georgia Peach Symposium, and we will be right back.
OcuPrep Training Solutions is a training and staffing organization whose mission it is to prepare the next generation of entry-level allied health professionals. OcuPrep offers in-house certification programs for multiple healthcare professions. If you're looking for a fulfilling career in the eye care, ear care, dental, or dialysis professions, www.ocuprep.com to discover which opportunity is right for you.
There aren't many lawyers that can offer in their practice trilingual services in a multiple of disciplines, and that's what we offer here. I felt it was important, given the demographics of this community, to be able to service as many people as possible, because there are some people that are underserved, that are not represented, that don't have access to strong legal services for a variety of reasons. I've been a lawyer for 32 years. I've been blessed to be able to practice around the world. I'm attorney C.K. Hoffler, and I refuse to be denied.
Body symmetry. We go on the inside and we get metabolically, hormonally, on a cellular level, and get everything optimized and balanced.
There's nobody like you on the face of the planet. So we need to treat you and tailor a program to you that is special to you.
It just gets me so excited. And so it's just, I run on passion. And I run on passion off of the fuel that I get from people's results. And it's powerful.
Hey, listen, guys, welcome back to the Georgia Peach Symposium. And while you guys were gone, as we go into, everybody, the new word is we're outside. We're going outside. COVID is lifted. And so now we're talking about cooking and enjoying our family. And while we're in the kitchen here, we're in Attorney Aurora's kitchen, and we're asking him, what is his secret recipe to the results that he is getting in the courtrooms? So, Attorney Manny Aurora, what is your deal? Like, what is your magic? What you got going on, brother?
Well, I've had really good bosses, even when I first started in the military, and they give me a lot of autonomy to figure out what it is that I'm good at. And you've got to understand, some people can talk to folks and they're really powerful. Some people are really smart and just grind and know the facts better than the other guy. And you just have to know what your skill set is. I'm not the best people person, so I'm more of a grinder, and then I can try to present it the way I want. The reason clients, I think, come to us is I actually care about them. We're not running 150 cases at a time and running around. We have a very small handful of cases, and it costs a lot of money, and people pay us, to do all that. But I think I genuinely care. I spend time with those people. I go to dinners with those people. I get to learn their situation, especially if they're not in custody. And generally, all our cases are life or nothing. And so you really get to know the folks. And I think win or lose, they know that you tried your best and you cared. And I think people care about that. We're not in a volume business where we're just churning through clients to make a few bucks, or we charge less money to do this. We're not on billboards. We don't advertise. But clients that I've represented, you've had friends that I've had to deal with.
Absolutely.
And no matter how the case went, they were always satisfied that they got the best. Yeah, that there's nothing that we missed, as far as that goes. And people like Devin, that's what they believe in, and that's why I hire them. He could go anywhere he wants to work. I've got 2 other associates that are here in the audience watching. There's lots of choices, so they can tell you why they came to work for me, but I actually care about the people. They pay us an arm and a leg, and I feel that as an obligation. And to some extent, I've almost neglected my own family to help out somebody else's. And, that's just the price you pay if you want to be good at something.
But let me follow up, Manny, and Devin, please follow up after Manny. Do you have this intellect that I know you personally have, that have this incredible way of being able to break down these elements of whatever trial or issue you're covering and able to connect and communicate with a jury, no doubt. And that is the magic that I see, that I know you of. And so when you've got a young associate like this, how do you pass that along? That is something that's got to be innate and not just learned. There's a little bit of both there. So I just think you are a lucky man to work for this man, and this man is good to have you.
Right, so just like I said, you know, if I went into a bar, I wouldn't be able to pick up any girls. I'm terrible at it, or go, you know,
Yeah,
meet
but they'd
something at
say
a
you're
party.
Manny Aurora, and you
Right.
wouldn't have to.
Well, let's go back a few years.
Right.
But everybody can learn to work really hard, and if you know the case better than your opposition, then it's just a matter of learning your style of how to present it. And that's what I do. If you just break it down and be intellectual and simple and write it down, we do a lot of, you know, diagrams and graphics in our trials. It helps. I'm not going to win you over with my ability to tell a story or those kinds of things, but nobody will know the material better than us, and that's what I teach them. And now if he can develop the ability to tell the story, then he'll be a much better lawyer than I was, because I'm hamstrung in that regard. But I know that about myself. So I put in a lot of effort, a lot of passion, a lot of hard work, and then the rest will take care of itself, and hopefully Devin will be a step better.
What do you think, Devin?
Keep my fingers crossed, but I think Manny's right. It's all about making it digestible and easy for somebody to understand, whether it's the judge, whether it's a jury, or sometimes just a prosecutor trying to plead a case. And so breaking it down into what Manny's always instructed me, is just breaking it down into an 8th grade level, something that's very easy for anybody to understand. And when you do that, it allows you to be much more successful, get the results you want, and be a better attorney. And so that's what Manny's sort of teaching me, and that's what I'm learning, and that's what I'm trying to do.
Well, you know what? One thing I can say, Devin, is knowing Manny and being around Manny is just, you know, it's a breath of fresh air. But he's slow to speak, and he's quick to listen. And one of the things that I'm picking up from your energy is that you're picking up his spirit. You're picking up his flow. You're very methodical about your words. You're not just run of the mouth. You actually have that piercing look in your eyes that he has in his eyes, and you are very methodical about your words. So I guess my question now becomes is, when you're looking at me the way you're looking at me, what are you thinking, and how are you processing, and how do you translate that into a law case?
I guess I just, for cases, it's what Manny said a minute ago. It's just knowing the facts of the case. Everyone's going to read about the law and know the law, but if you know the facts better than everyone else, it's just going back to telling the story. How do you present those facts? Because once you know the facts, you just got to figure out a way to present it and telling that story. So, I mean, that's all it is as far as prepping a case, or you're saying not being methodical. As far as cases go, it's just learning the case backwards and forwards and knowing the facts better than everyone else.
What was the biggest case that you had, Manny, that you just was like, wow? I mean, have you ever had a wow moment? And some people have not had wow moments. I mean, you've probably had some things that you reported is like, wow. Have you had a wow moment like, wow, this one right here was just an interesting situation?
Well, the wow moments that I generally have is, you know, when you have an officer that gets caught red-handed, you know, doing something incorrect. In my last 10 plus years, it happened a lot of times. But it's just amazing how disappointed I get sometimes in our judges that will still sort of look the other way or say, well, it was good faith, or it was harmless error, or something like that. And, you know, it always brings you back to earth to know that no jurist that's judging a case is ever going to get in trouble by being too tough on any clients. It's the ones that go out and say, the law says this, I must do this. They're the ones that get recalled, or they have ads run against them. And so, you know, I'm hoping one day we'll get back to a more independent type judiciary. I teach a class at Georgia State Law School, and a couple of the kids in their final exams wrote about how we can change some of the things where the judges aren't really politicized. I mean, what happened in the last 4 years about judges, their heritage, the politics, everything? It's gotten insane. So if you just hammer everybody, you're never going to get in trouble or get noticed for anything, right? It's the one guy or lady that does something that really is right on its face, but it may not play in a 5-minute soundbite. And, you know, that's what we're hoping to get around, and we're hoping maybe the system...
More like 10-second soundbite, if that. Let me follow up a little bit on this, because right now we are coming out of COVID, and I've spoken to various folks in the judiciary as far as the backlog. What does that mean for you and other defense attorneys? Because if there is a backlog, which there is, what does that mean for a client of yours who may or may not have been released on bond? And if not, if they're innocent or otherwise, they're spending time in jail.
Right. Well, that's sort of the problem. You know, everybody says we've been letting all these people out. The people that have been let out were generally going to get out anyway. So that's just a little bit of a misnomer, and I'd like to put that on the record. But if you've been charged with murder or something else,
you're not getting out.
Right, but nobody's even looked behind the facts to see, is there a chance he might win? Are there other facts out there? It's just because you've been labeled with a certain crime, you're stuck there. So now we've got clients going in excess of 2 years waiting on it. So what happens on a couple of the cases if we win or we get a not guilty? Who's going to give them the 2 years back? Why don't they come up with other schemes where you can be under house arrest or ankle monitor, these types of things? You know, for every one person that may break their ankle monitor to run away, 50, 60,000 people follow the rules. I mean, it's an overwhelming number of people come to court. It's really rare that anybody flees. I mean, who has the money to do any of these stuff and those types of things in today's age? And so I'm personally very taken quite an affront in that I've had several clients right now that should be out that are still sitting in jail just because of the label of the charge. And I just ask people, what happens when I win? What do I say to that guy saying, sorry, you were stuck in jail. One of them got COVID twice in prison. Thankfully, he survived. Others have gotten COVID. What do you say to them when they win and their families? Just because you were charged with something high because some 25, 28-year-old prosecutor could take a case to a grand jury and rubber stamp it through, which essentially is what it is. I mean, we all know that. It's just very frustrating. And then they come back and say, oh, we're letting everybody out. It's just not the case.
So there's been, you're saying, some misrepresentations out there clearly, and you are trying to set the record a little clearer.
From my experience, yes. Other people can say whatever, but here in Georgia, from what I've experienced, I've got more people in prison now that I'm representing than I've ever had before. We even picked up some cases to help folks out that can't afford it because it's just wrong. I don't want a lack of safety out there. I want my family protected. We all want the same thing. But fairness demands that something happen, and it's not right for somebody to be sitting in jail for a couple of years. Even with COVID, we were supposed to be working from home, so why didn't the cases get investigated or looked at least a little bit?
Listen, guys, I am loving what I'm hearing because, yeah, some people do need to be incarcerated, but there are some folks that need to be turned loose and let go home. We'll dive a little bit deeper than that, Devin, and we'll get you to kind of chime in on that. We'll be right back.
OcuPrep Training Solutions is a training and staffing organization whose mission it is to prepare the next generation of entry-level allied health professionals. OcuPrep offers in-house certification programs for multiple healthcare professions. If you're looking for a fulfilling career in the eye care, ear care, dental, or dialysis professions, www.ocuprep.com to discover which opportunity is right for you.
Hello, my name is Daryl Pickett.
And I'm Jasmine Pickett, and we are the owners of iCode Academy, Inc. iCode Academy's 24-week training and exam preparation course teaches the student the fundamentals of medical billing and coding and prepares the student for certification.
Jasmine, that's absolutely right. Register now. Call iCode Academy at 1-866-553-2928 or visit us on the web at www.icodesacademy.org to register.
I'm Jasmine Pickett.
And I'm Daryl Pickett, launch into your new life.
And become a certified medical billing and coding specialist today.
There aren't many lawyers that can offer in their practice trilingual services in a multiple of disciplines, and that's what we offer here. I felt it was important, given the demographics of this community, to be able to service as many people as possible because there are some people that are underserved, that are not represented, that don't have access to strong legal services for a variety of reasons. I've been a lawyer for 32 years. I've been blessed to be able to practice around the world. I'm attorney C.K. Hoffler, and I refuse to be denied.
The environmental stresses, bad foods, lack of hydration, lack of sleep, stress throughout family. There's no way the system can maintain a normal high efficiency. So we take it and bring those levels up to a high efficiency, and now your system is running on a level that is more proficient.
They really take good care of me. They know exactly what you need.
So glad to have you back to the Georgia Peace Symposium. And listen, we've got some wonderful, great, and for those ones of you all that have been with Georgia and I, we've had some wonderful dialogue. I mean, you know, there's a mother out there that has a son that's incarcerated. There's a father out there that has a daughter that's in prison. We've got different family dynamics. And one of the things that Attorney Aurora was talking about is, you know, through COVID, and through the international pandemic, there's been justice, but there's been some injustices. And so one of the things that we're trying to bring back, because of, you know, people feeling like they have been mishandled, right, for whatever the reason may be. We've been talking to our great, wonderful, one of Atlanta's or Georgia's best attorneys about what about the people who have totally lost confidence in the judicial system or the just the confidence in being treated fair. How do we bring that back, Manny? How do we do that? And can we do that? Has the horse left the barn?
I'm sure there's always a way to do it. I just am not smart enough to know how that way is. The problem is, you know, it just seems a little one-sided, the way things are. I think the most important thing is to figure out how we can get judges to feel even more independent. Everyone that you've had on this are wonderful people, really nice folks, but you're making decisions about people's lives, and there's consequences not just to those people or the victims, but also to the judges, right? When does a judge make the news? They did something that may seem unpopular, even if it's the right thing under the law. So you don't see judges making the news too often on those issues, because if somebody complains, the press will pick it up. You let a rapist go, you let this go. I'll give you an example, like the Stanford case where that judge gave the guy that was accused of rape or pled guilty, I think 6 months or whatever it was. Well, nobody actually reported that the prosecutor recommended that sentence as well for him to do that, yet that judge is now out of a job. And you think that doesn't have a chilling effect when you do that? Maybe 6 months was the right thing. None of us knew what the facts of that case really were. And you'd say, well, why did the prosecutor recommend it? But here we are. And so the idea is we maybe need to change that. Do we need all appointed judges? Do we need all elected judges? Do we need term limits? What do we need to make it so where the judges feel independent, that if they do something that may be controversial, that's not the end of their career. They're insulated from it. And to me, that may be the best thing to do. But, you know, we'll see. But right now, everybody has a right, you know, to be upset with the way things are, because there do seem to be a lot of unfairness issues. There's a lot of interpretation in the law. There's these phrases called harmless error, that even if the judges are screwed up in rulings, well, it's just kind of harmless. Don't worry about it. We'll hold the conviction up.
But have destroyed someone's life.
Well, of course, you know, as far as that goes, and we sympathize with victims too, but at some point, the defendant is the one that's going to go to prison, and the rights should lean in that favor. Doesn't mean the victims don't have rights, but they're not the ones on trial. And you really should look at cases, and DAs should be empowered to tell their assistant DAs, dump the case if it stinks. We used to have this old saying in the DA's office, I don't care if the case is a dog, I'll try it and let the jury punt him, but I'm not going to let him go. Like some, you know, 28, 29-year-old like I used to be prosecuting knew any better than anything else. So with age comes wisdom, and, you know, unfortunately everything's really devolved into a battle back and forth. It's not like you can go have a beer with your opponent anymore. I mean, the climate's just completely changed.
Manny, I want to thank you. Sure. I want to thank you for your honesty, for your transparency, but I want to thank you for your presence. Devin, thank you so much for being here with your mentor.
It's a pleasure.
And
thank you, Sean.
Thank you so much, George, for being here with us. We've had a great and wonderful show, and God bless your heart and all your parts. This is the Georgia Peach Symposium, and we look forward to seeing you on our next broadcast. God bless you. Have a great and wonderful day.